I almost burned this jersey this morning when I first heard the news. Not that the news surprised me, but the Cleveland Browns don't deserve Shedeur Sanders.
Skip Bayless just said he almost burned his own jersey on camera. Not a Browns jersey, a Shedeur Sanders jersey, because Todd Monken and the Cleveland Browns just made a decision that Bayless says he saw coming from a mile away. Deshaun Watson is QB1. Not for a week, not for a preseason game, for the whole season. And Bayless does not treat that like a football decision. He treats it like a betrayal of Shedeur Sanders. He calls the Browns a sorry franchise that does not deserve to have Shedeur on the roster anymore. That is not a throwaway line. That is Bayless saying the most popular young quarterback in the sport is being wasted by an organization that never wanted him in the first place. And then he goes somewhere most media guys will not go. He says he wants Jimmy Haslam and Todd Monken to just set Shedeur free, trade him, get him out. He says he doesn't care if Cleveland only gets a 6th or 7th round pick back for him. Then he names the team, Atlanta. Bayless straight up says he would love to see Shedeur Sanders in a Falcons uniform, and he does not hedge on it either. He says he believes Shedeur could win more games next season than Michael Penix Jr. or Tua Tagovailoa could win for Atlanta. That is a real quarterback in a real quarterback room getting compared to 2 former first-round picks, and Bayless is picking the backup from Cleveland over both of them. To back it up, he pulls out a number a lot of people do not know. He says Shedeur's jersey was the 5th highest selling jersey in the entire NFL last year, behind Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, and Josh Allen, a backup quarterback outselling the vast majority of starters in the league. Bayless uses that to make his real point. This is not some fringe player. This is one of the most talked about names in football, and the Browns are sitting on him instead of playing him. That is the frame for everything that comes next. In Bayless's mind, this was never really a competition. It was a foregone conclusion dressed up as one. And now that the decision is official, he is not holding anything back about who he blames.
That Jimmy Haslam and Todd Monken would decide as we near the season to get rid of Shedeur, to set him free, to trade him elsewhere, and I'm sure nobody would give anything more than what they gave for Shedeur, a 5th-round pick.
Stop right there, because that word, rigged, is the whole argument. Bayless is not just saying Watson won. He is saying the competition was never fair to begin with. Bayless lays out exactly why he thinks the deck was stacked against Shedeur. He points to the receivers and the offensive line Shedeur was working with last season, which Pro Football Focus ranked as the worst receiving core and one of the worst offensive lines in the entire league. He says Shedeur was throwing to backups, to 3rd and 4th stringers, guys who were not even in the top 4 on the depth chart at their position. Meanwhile, he says Deshaun Watson got to throw to Cleveland's actual investment pieces, receivers like Isaiah Bond and the team's higher picks, from the very first preseason snap. Then Bayless goes after the story the Browns themselves put out. He is talking about the video the team released of Shedeur meeting Todd Monken for the first time in Monken's office. In that video, Monken tells Shedeur they really wanted him back when Monken was in Baltimore. Bayless calls that baloney, flat out. He says yes, the Ravens front office did make a call about Shedeur before the 5th round, but he does not believe for a second that Todd Monken was campaigning to take him early. He paints a picture of Monken never truly wanting Shedeur in the building at all. From there, Bayless connects it to the money. He brings up Deshaun Watson's 5-year, $230 million fully guaranteed contract, which he calls the worst contract in the history of professional football. He reminds people that over the last 5 years, Watson has only played 19 games total because of 2 separate Achilles tendon reattachments and shoulder surgery. 19 games in 5 years for a quarterback making that kind of money. He also does not shy away from the ugliest part of Watson's past, the sexual assault allegations from more than 20 women in Houston, the massage therapist lawsuits, the 11-game suspension, and the $5 million fine. Bayless says 2 separate grand juries in Texas declined to bring criminal charges, but he is clear that a lot of the boos Watson still hears in Cleveland are not really about that anymore. He says the real reason fans boo is simpler than people think. Watson has just been bad on the field, with a quarterback rating around 33 in his time as a Brown, a number that would be dead last in the league if it qualified. Think about what he is actually saying there. He is telling you the anger in that stadium was never really about Watson's past. It is about who the fans wanted to see on the field instead. This is where Bayless stops talking like an analyst and starts talking like a fan. He says flat out that he has been on board with Shedeur Sanders since Colorado, since Jackson State even, long before most media members took him seriously. He says he loves his poise, his command, his accuracy, and most of all his toughness. He brings up how often Shedeur got hit behind bad offensive lines at Colorado and says the kid took real hits and kept getting back up, calling it proof this is not some spoiled, protected prospect. Then he makes a claim that will get attention on its own. Bayless says he truly believes Shedeur should have gone first overall to the Tennessee Titans, ahead of Cam Ward. He says he still thinks Shedeur could outplay Cam Ward if he were given the same opportunities Ward has gotten in Tennessee. That is not a small statement. That is Bayless ranking Shedeur ahead of a quarterback who actually went #1 overall. He also pushes back on the criticism that follows Shedeur, the idea that he came across as entitled or arrogant in his draft process interviews. Bayless says almost every great quarterback has had that same swagger, including Tom Brady, who told Robert Kraft on day 1 that he was going to be Kraft's franchise quarterback after being a 6th-round pick. Bayless's point is simple. The league punished Shedeur for the same confidence it usually rewards in other players. Then he gets specific about what he thinks Shedeur actually needs to succeed: better weapons. He mentions the team's newer receivers, Concepcion and Denzel Boston, and says if Shedeur had actually been given real reps with that talent instead of watching Watson start from day 1 of camp, people would already be seeing what he can do. Bayless's frustration is not really about talent, it is about opportunity, and in his eyes, Shedeur has not gotten a real one yet in Cleveland. That frustration is what leads him into the harshest part of the entire rant, when he turns his attention directly to Todd Monken and accuses him of being part of a system that was never going to give Shedeur a fair shot in the first place. That is about as direct as an accusation gets. Bayless is not saying Monken made a bad football decision. He is saying Monken made a decision before the competition even started. Bayless brings up Todd Monken's resume to make his case. He points out this is Monken's 14th job across college and pro football, going all the way back to Grand Valley State, and calls him part of an old, connected coaching network that protects its own. He references Monken's 3 years as Lamar Jackson's offensive coordinator in Baltimore, where Lamar won 1 MVP and probably should have won a second, and says Monken's loyalty runs to proven, established guys, not to a rookie trying to force his way into the lineup. Then Bayless brings up something personal. He talks about Deshaun Sanders showing up to training camp this year, wanting to talk to Monken about how to handle his son, and Bayless frames the good old boy network's reaction as basically telling Deshaun to back off, that they know how to run a quarterback room better than he does. Bayless does not think that attitude was ever going to end with Shedeur getting a fair, open competition. From there, he turns to Jimmy Haslam, and this is where the real motive comes out in Bayless's telling. He says Haslam took years of public criticism for giving Watson that $230 million deal, and now, with Watson finally healthy again, Haslam sees a chance to be vindicated. Bayless says this is Haslam trying to prove to the world he was right all along, using an NFL season to settle his own ego, not to build the best team. He does not spare Andrew Berry either. Bayless calls Cleveland's general manager essentially powerless, someone who got handed the coaching hire and the quarterback decision from ownership with no real say of his own. He compares Haslam unfavorably to Jerry Jones, pointing out that at least Jerry Jones has 3 Super Bowl rings to justify running things his own way. Bayless says Haslam has nothing to show for that kind of control. And that is what leads to the final task. He doesn't want an apology, he doesn't want a statement, he wants Shedeur Sanders traded, specifically to a team like Atlanta, where Bayless believes he would immediately be QB1 in a winnable division and turn the franchise around. So take a step back and look at everything Bayless just laid out. A rigged depth chart with Shedeur throwing to backups while Watson got the real weapons. A video from the team itself that Bayless calls straight up dishonest. A $230 million contract that Haslam is desperate to justify. A head coach Bayless says was never fully in Shedeur's corner. And a general manager with no real power to change any of it. None of that is Bayless questioning whether Shedeur Sanders can play. It is Bayless questioning whether Cleveland was ever going to let him. He brought up real numbers, the jersey sales, the receiving core rankings, Watson's actual games played and quarterback rating, and used all of it to build one argument. This wasn't a fair fight, and the guy who lost it doesn't actually deserve to be sitting on the bench. That is the piece that makes this different from a normal hot take. Bayless is not just mad Watson got the job. He is telling Jimmy Haslam and Todd Monken directly to let Shedeur Sanders go somewhere he will actually be wanted, and he's naming the team he thinks should get him. So, here's the real question this leaves you with. Was Deshaun Watson actually the better quarterback in that camp? Or did Todd Monken and Jimmy Haslam decide this before a single preseason snap was played? Skip Bayless clearly believes it was decided already, and he's telling the Browns to cut ties with Shedeur Sanders before they waste him for another season. Do you think Shedeur gets his shot in Cleveland, or does this end with him in a different uniform? Drop your answer in the comments, smash like, and subscribe.